Sorry, just getting my papers. Do we have any apologies for absence today?
Councillor Simon Wilson.
Simon Wilson, thank you. No, any substitute members?
No.
I should have asked the officers to introduce themselves, please, starting with Kirsty on my right.
Kirsty Charlton, Senior Committee Services Officer.
Neil Carter, I'm the solicitor to the committee.
Stephen Reid, I'm the Planning Manager, Chair.
Claire Teasdale, Principal Planning Officer.
Phil Harrison, Highway Development Manager.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? Yes, Jonathan.
Yes, Chair. I'm a member of County Durham Green Party, and they've put in an objection to the third application, C, on the agenda. And I'd just like to say that I've had no part to play in that process of them objecting, but I am a member of the party.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Craig. You're one as well, please.
Craig Martin, Councillor for North Lodge and Chesley Street. Just regarding C, New College Durham. I used to work for New College Durham, but this was 6 years ago, and I've had no communication with them about this application or anything else in the very recent future.
Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of December 2023. Is everybody okay to approve those minutes? Thank you. And we'll go straight on to the applications to be determined, starting with 5A, Bluestone Farm, Lands Cockfield. It's a solar development. Claire's going to present it to us this morning.
Good morning, members. Yes, the first application we have today is for the construction of a solar farm with associated works, equipment and the necessary infrastructure. The site itself is located to the east of the minor road C30, which is this road that comes down here, and it's to the immediate southeast of the hamlet of Highlands and to the west of Ramshaw and northwest of Evenwood, as you can see from the slide. The site itself comprises sheep grazed grassland fields with boundaries of fences and stone walls, hedgerows, tree lines and woodland. The site itself formed part of the Low Gordon open cast coal site, and the current field pattern reflects that post-mining restoration. The site itself occupies an area of 64 hectares. The nearest residential property is Bluestone Farm, which is in this location. And there are a number of properties up at Highlands and a few coming down the C30 as well. As you can see, there are also other isolated properties, Low Gordon, High Gordon, and other properties around here as well. Lowlands Cricket Ground is located in this area here, which is that little indent on the application boundary. There are no landscape designations within the site. An area of higher landscape value, as defined in the County Durham plan, lies to the north of the site boundary with a further AHLV to the south. There are no ecological designations within or adjacent to the proposed site, and there are no designated heritage assets within the application site either. As you can see from the slide, there are several footpaths and bridleway which run through the proposed site, this being the bridleway and then the green dotted lines being the footpaths. We also have an aerial photograph of the site, and that's here. You can sort of see it in the context of the agricultural fields, woodland down this area here and along this belt here. Also have a number of photographs for you, and this is a view from open space in Highlands, and it would be in this area here. There would be some in the immediate, you can see the allotments just there, and then you can see this green field here, approximately half of the green field closest to this local space area would be biodiversity enhancement land. There would be a hedgerow, and then beyond that there would be some of the areas of the solar panels. This is a view of the woodland belt, which is along the road C30, so it would it offers some mitigation from the proposed panels, which would be located behind them. This is a view from Bridal Way, from the Bridal Way in the centre of the site towards the temporary site compound. And this is a view from the Bridal Way, which is running through the site, and it shows the area of the proposed substation. Sorry, I just want to correct that. The Bridal Way number is 53A. Sorry, I just want to correct that for the record, just in terms of what it said on the title of that slide. What we also have is a view of the site, again, towards Bluestone Farm. I mean, it's an agricultural field, but it just gives you the indication of what the site looks as a whole. Again, we have a number of agricultural fields again. There is a proposed access that's onto the Bridal Way, and what they're proposing to do is just sort of modify the entrance for the access, which would just be a little bit over this area here. This is a view of the site from near Evenfield Farm to the south. What we've sought to do is include the red line boundary, which I hope you can see on there. That line here is the line of the Bridal Way that you can see. So this area in here would be the temporary compound, and then you would have the substation in this area with solar panels on the other fields. This is the proposed site layout. The arrays would be arranged in rows mounted on metal frames, and they would have a maximum height of 3 metres. The panels themselves would be set back slightly from the site boundaries to allow for perimeter fencing, CCTV coverage and maintenance access. Inverter stations and other equipment to support the generation of the electricity would be located across the site, accessible by internal tracks. In the southeastern part of the site, as I said on the other photograph, would be the substation, and this would involve a distribution network operator substation. There would be a customer substation, control room, operations and maintenance buildings and welfare buildings. The grid connection itself would be via the proposed substation, and the cabling would link the solar panels, the inverters, to the substation. The electricity itself would be run through the transformer to the 66 kV cable and exported to the local distribution network via the adjacent existing overhead pylon. The proposal is for 40 years. At the end of that period, the site would be fully decommissioned and the site would be restored, and it's estimated that the decommissioning itself would take approximately 6 months. The construction of the solar farm would take approximately 9 months. As part of this, these were the tree belts, which I said lined the road of the C30. These would be maintained through a proposed woodland management plan, as would other woodland areas in and just adjacent to the site. What is also proposed are biodiversity enhancement areas, which is the green areas that you can see here, and that's what the proposed temporary compound would become following the decommissioning of that once the proposal has been constructed. In terms of access and rights of way, the photograph which we showed earlier, the Ordnance Survey that showed the lines of the public rights of way, they would not be diverted, and so they would remain in their current positions. There would be approximately 3 metres wide, the area for the footpaths, and there would be hedgerow along each side. That was, when you've read the committee report, you can see that we have said that, there would be some impact on the recreational amenity of people using those footpaths. That would be for the duration of them walking along that length of the footpath. That would be within the solar farm itself, and that's more because of the fact that you would have, the footpaths, the hedgerows either side. In terms of the landscaping, as I say, these would be covered in a woodland management plan. We're also proposing the applicant, if planning permission was granted, to enter into a Section 39 agreement that would look to maintain these areas of enhancement and cover the long-term maintenance of those for the duration of the development. In terms of consultations and representations, we have had no objections from statutory and internal consultees, subject to conditions where appropriate. Landscape, although they don't object, they have advised that the development would result in some substantive, long-term and adverse effects to the character and quality and distinctiveness of the local landscape, and important views by virtue of its nature, size and visibility, and that would reduce the quality of the experience for recreational users of the countryside. That's a view which, officers have put forward, and it's detailed in the report. We have received as well 17 representations in response to the application. Of these, 5 are objections and 9 are support. And in terms of objection, the matters raised by members of the public have been visual impact, ecology, public rights of way, coal mining legacy issues, drainage, glint glare, need for the development, community benefits, and the matters that are listed on the slide. We've also had an objection from CPRE, which again is detailed in the report to members. They again consider that they have a concern about visual impacts. They're also concerned about the loss of agricultural land. I would point out that this is not best and most versatile agricultural land. It's agricultural land grade 3B. The other thing which CPRE have said that, they're currently campaigning for solar arrays to be placed on commercial roofs rather than on agricultural lands. But obviously, we're here to determine the application that is before members today. In terms of support, we have had 9 individual letters of support for the application, and they've raised a number of issues, these being the benefits of renewable energy, the impacts of global warming, the local community benefits, and they've also referred to benefits considered to be free supply and installation of solar roof panels to households, protection of wildlife, of land for wildlife, preserving land, and concerns about needing to keep the roads clean. The 2 local members for this site, Councillor James Goslett and Councillor Robert Potts, both of Evenwood, have no objections to the application. Councillor Potts, as I've shown on the slide, has said that it provides his support for the development. Highlands Village Hall Association, they have also broadly supported the application on the condition that promises which they say had been made would be met by the applicant, which involve community benefits. We've addressed community benefits within the report, and it's not a matter for our consideration as part of this land use planning development. There's been 3 representations as well, which have been sort of received, and 1 resident is supportive, but he has a number of concerns during the construction phase. British Horse Society has made a comment in terms of the loss of the amenity, but what I would say is that no bridleways or public rights of way are going to be closed off. During the construction stage, there would be a need to manage the use of users of the footpaths when, the bridleway, when the construction traffic is there, but that would be for a temporary period. The Friends of Stockton and Darlington Railway raised no objection, expressing an interest in the proposed Heritage Information Boards. This is because 300 metres to approximately 300 metres to the south of the site is the line of the former Stockton and Darlington Railway, and also the Cockfield Fell is sort of over to the west of the site, and again, no issues have been raised regarding that. We do have 1 speaker today, and that is one of the applicants who is going to speak in support of the application. In summary, officers consider that the proposal would constitute development in the countryside, resulting in a degree of landscape harm, and it would reduce the quality of the experience for recreational users using the countryside. But this harm must be weighed in the planning balance. And it's considered that the imperative to tackle climate change is recognised in legislation and energy policy, and the very significant benefits of the scheme clearly and decisively outweigh the limited harm. The reduction in the quality of the experience for recreational users, as I said, would be for a limited time, and that would be until planting becomes established and only during the period taken to walk that particular length of rights of way. Furthermore, there are no physical constraints limiting early development of the site, and a grid connection offer is in place. Therefore, the scheme could make an early and significant contribution to the objective of achieving the statutory net zero target for 2050 and the commitment to reducing emissions in the shorter term. Other benefits are the provision of a significant renewable energy resource, providing clean energy to over 13,000 homes, reducing dependence on fossil fuel power stations, with the additional employment benefits during the construction period, as well as biodiversity and landscape improvements. All other material planning considerations have been taken into account in the determination of the solar farm application, and officers consider these to be acceptable. The proposal has generated some public interest, and the concerns expressed regarding the proposals have been taken into account and carefully balanced against the scheme's wider social, economic and public benefits. And the proposal is considered to broadly accord with the relevant policies of the County Durham Plan and relevant sections of the NPPF. I therefore recommend that the application be approved, subject to the conditions set out in the officer's report and completion of a planning obligation and under Section 39 of the Wildlife and Countryside Act. And this is for the maintenance of the biodiversity areas, the woodland planting, etc., for the duration of the development for the 40-year period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. As Claire happened to mention, we do have one registered speaker on behalf of the applicant. But at this point, I'll just ask you from the chair, Rob Potts, you've made a written statement on the understanding maybe you couldn't be here. Do you have anything to add to it as a local member? No, I'm happy with that. Thank you. So it's over to Jonathan Selwyn, Managing Director of Bluefield Development. You'll have 5 minutes to speak, and Kirsty will give you a warning when you've got 1 minute left. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Jonathan Selwyn, and I'm the Managing Director of Bluefield Renewable Developments, the applicant for this project. By way of introduction, the Bluefield Group is a UK-based business which develops, builds and operates solar farms on behalf of the stock market-listed Bluefield Solar Income Fund. The group has 150 UK-based staff in London and Bristol and field engineers operating our existing assets from regional hubs across the UK. The fund has invested nearly £1 billion in solar since its foundation in 2013 and currently owns and operates 110 solar projects, providing up to 3% of UK daytime electricity. Because we own and operate the solar farms we develop, we seek to establish long-term relationships with local authorities and local communities. Turning now to the Bluestone project, we first identified this project in 2020 after finding available grid capacity on the overhead power line. We subsequently submitted a pre-application with Durham County Council, receiving a formal response in May 2021 and submitting a planning application early last year. Throughout the project, we've worked very closely with the local community and Durham County Council to address concerns and improve the overall scheme. I will now highlight some of the key benefits of the proposed project. As already outlined, there's no best and most versatile land within the proposed solar farm area. It's all Grade 3B land. The existing farm is not used for growing any crops. It's currently used its entirety for sheep grazing, and we would continue this after construction of the solar farm. And I just wanted to highlight that Bluefield currently grazes sheep very successfully on over 50% of our existing solar farms. The project would therefore have no impact on food security and no loss of agricultural land. The land is well screened from Cockfield with existing mature woodland buffers to the south, north and northeast, which will be protected by planning condition. There are no statutory designations, and the project has been designed to enhance and expand existing biodiversity and wildlife habitats. It will secure a biodiversity net gain of over 49% in habitat units and 158% in hedgerow units. As already stated, there have been no statutory objections made and only 5 public objections, 3 of which are from the same household. There were 9 letters of support. Throughout the project, we've sought to work very closely with the planning and landscape officers to minimise any impact. For example, the substation location has been carefully chosen on the lowest, most screened part of the site and closest to the point of grid connection. Whilst the officer's report makes a number of observations about potential landscape impacts, it's important to stress that paragraph 152 confirms that the landscape officer does not object overall. As we've heard, there will be no impacts on public rights of way once the site is operational. There's good access for construction traffic and there's low risk of flooding. Turning now to community benefits, Bluefield has engaged extensively with the local community in the lands area over the past few years of the project development. There have been several face-to-face meetings with local residents, with their input resulting in a number of design improvements, including expansion of the biodiversity enhancement areas. We're committed to contributing funds to local community projects and have had constructive dialogue with Lands Village Hall Association and Cockfield and Evenwood Parish Councils. We've pledged a sum of at least £400,000 for local community projects, including renewable energy and energy efficiency projects at both Lands Village Hall and Butterknoll Primary School. We'll also be carrying out energy surveys and a retrofit solar and battery programme for around 60 local households who will then own the systems. Our community benefit offer has been formally set out
1 minute remaining.
in a letter to Lands Village Hall Association, which as a legally established charity would be the conduit of the community benefit programme. Once the solar farm is no longer needed for energy, it would be decommissioned by a planning condition. In conclusion, Bluestone Farm Solar Farm would contribute significantly to Durham's climate change targets without having any impact on food security. The land is already used for grazing. This would continue. The project is very well screened and result in substantial biodiversity net gain. As a result, there are no statutory objections. The project is overwhelmingly supported by the local community, who will benefit from a generous community fund. In the planning balance, the substantial benefits as set out in the planning officer's report outweigh the limited and localised harm. Therefore, I trust you'll be taking your case officer's recommendation to approve this scheme. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do you have anything to add to that, Claire?
I think all I want to highlight, and it's something that I did see in our the presentation, and it's set out in paragraphs 262 to 264 of the committee report, that these proposed community benefits, you know, are not sort of things that we can give weight to, because they wouldn't be SIL regulation compliant. So that's not something that, you know, officers have afforded weight to when we've been considering the application, and it's just members need to be aware of that.
Thank you once again, Claire. Has any member got a question for Jonathan? No, we'll move on and we'll open for the debate. Jim, you were first with your hand up.
Sorry, Chair. I just wanted to start with a declaration of interest. I noticed when I was reading the notes, the Stockton and Darlington Railway have an input, but I am a member of the Stockton and Darlington, but I've had no communication with them on this at all. I'm just speaking on my own behalf, and I'm here totally on my residents on my behalf. And I've listened. The application, as far as I'm concerned, is sound. It's solid. I'm looking particularly at things like the benefits of the community project, which is a lot of money from anybody's point of view. helping the climate targets is also a benefit, and the benefits clearly outweigh any objections that there are from my perspective, and I'm more than happy to go along with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Jonathan Elmer, and then you, Pat.
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Elmer, Brandon Division. I think this is a really impressive application. I just wanted to say that to start with. I was thinking about what was happening under the panels, and then you've described that in your presentation, that there's going to continue to be sheep grazed, and that's a real top issue with these sorts of applications. We want to make, because there's always space under and between the panels for another form of land use. So it's great to see that that is being put to a positive use. It's great to see that there's going to be a significant biodiversity net gain associated with the application. And I think it's really important to say that I'm really pleased to see that there's an impressive suite of community benefits coming from this. I know this isn't material to the planning application, but it is so important in terms of gaining wider acceptability for these sorts of schemes that the community, in particular the local community, gain some sort of direct benefit from them. I want to push back as well against one of the issues raised by the Council's landscape team in terms of the landscape and visual impact associated with the application. This judgment is entirely subjective. It's about the appearance of the landscape. It's essentially changing colour. Now, historians within the room will know that the landscape changes dramatically over the decades, indeed the centuries, as land use changes from one thing to another. And indeed, the appearance of our landscape has massively changed just over the last, I would say, 80 years as farming techniques have changed and field sizes have changed and things like that. So given that we're facing the need to address a global climate emergency, given that just on the news 2 or 3 days ago, it was reported that the average global temperature last year was 1.4 degrees in excess of what it historically has been. We are facing an accelerating emergency, and schemes such as this are so important to address that problem. So I'm really happy to be able to recommend that we approve the officer's recommendation on this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Patricia Joplin. Now, you were on the site visit yesterday, and I'll appreciate your view and yours as well, John, if you can got one.
Yes, I was on the site visit yesterday, and Claire was very thorough. We had a good look round, right round it. And it is, to me, I do sometimes question solar farms, but having looked at this one and where it is, and it is low-lying, I really don't think this is going to cause a great deal of how can I put it, to the view. I don't honestly think when you look right across the landscape that it's going to make a huge difference. It is a large site, I admit that. Community benefit here is obviously very welcome. So in this instance, unlike me, Jonathan, I'm of a mind to go with officer's recommendation, because I do think that the company have actually gone as far as they can go to try and placate all the things that would cause really big issues like rights of way, grazing, hedging. I'm quite happy that with this one. So I should be voting for this one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I would just point out that although all the locals seem in favour of it, they will have to look at it for 40 years. Or those that are older, like myself, we probably won't reach the end of that. John, can you come in now? John Higgins, please, and then Maura, you.
Excuse me. Councillor John Higgins, Wingate Ward. Yes, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Claire for her presentation and all the information we received yesterday. And I'd also like to thank the other officer, Rebecca, as well, for the information what she gave. I totally agree about the state of the climate, and we've got to take action. And I've taken on board everything what's been said so far, and also what's in the report, and especially the local members support the application, and also the residents. But I take a different view to my colleague who's just spoke there. It was the first time I visited this area, and when we pulled up where the houses were, I was quite impressed that we've got the trees and everything. That's basically going to stop, hopefully, the residents seeing the solar panels. And then we went, maybe it's another 2.5 miles along the road, and we stopped at the top of the hill. We got out and we were looking down into the valley. And I thought it was a very, very good scenic view. A really good scenic view, what you could see for miles and miles and miles. Now, we know what's been touched in the report by the landscaping officer. Unfortunately, I can't support this application. I think it's going to devastate the landscape and it's going to devastate the countryside. I'll not be here in 40 years' time to say exactly what does happen or what doesn't happen. But I'm only thinking of what it is at this moment in time. So because of my opinion on what's going to happen to the landscape, the countryside, and remember the countryside's part of our heritage as well, I can't support this application, Chair.
John, very well spoken. Maura, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I personally think that the biggest threat to the countryside is climate change. If you look at the way that the weather patterns are changing, if you look at the impact that melting ice flows are having on our global climate, but particularly in Britain, where we have the transatlantic current that's given us our fairly mild climate, and that seems to be going absolutely haywire. If you look at what happened in Europe last year, you know, it was only a couple of years ago that we had to keep all of our blinds down for about a week in our house to stop the heat coming in during summer, because we in Britain don't have central cooling in our houses, and the impact that that had on our grasses, on biodiversity, the fact that we're living through a mass extinction event, all of that is a massive, massive threat to us, and there just won't be a countryside and there won't be a climate unless we're able to make decisions like this. People in the local area don't seem to have massive objections to it in the way that we've seen other people in other applications. And if we're not going to be losing any of the agricultural land because they'll still be grazing on the land, it just seems as though there's really no downside, very little downside in comparison to the massive benefit that will come from us having not just renewable energy, but also energy security. We rely on other countries, including increasingly hostile countries, including at times countries that we may be at war with. You know, we don't have a great deal of energy security, and the more energy we produce ourselves, the more secure we are as a country. And we really do need to be investing in our own homegrown renewables. So I'm happy to support this application. If we haven't already moved to accept officers' recommendations, I'm happy to move it.
Thank you for that, Maura. So you moved that. Does anybody else? Oh, Jim, did you move it? You seconded. Okay. Jim and Maura.
Oh, I think Councillor Elmer seconded it, so that's fine then. I just vote for it.
Well, you didn't actually use the words, either of you. You know, I was quite well aware of that. And for me, the biggest danger to the countryside, just coming on from what you said, Maura, is people. And if you said we could be at war with some of these countries and we need to produce our own, how long before a little place like Lands gets bombed? Anyway, we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? All those against? Thank you, that's approved. We'll move on once again with Claire. She's got the whole show today with the demolition of Belmont Church of England Junior School. Thank you, Claire.
Okay, so as Councillor Richardson said, this is for the demolition of Belmont schools. The committee will recall that back in March, it granted planning permission for a new primary school, secondary school and sports building with external playing fields, landscape access and car parking, along with the demolition of the drama block at the existing school sites. This current application is just for the demolition of the other buildings, which we are now able to determine. We couldn't at the other previously because we needed to undertake some further bat surveys. So that's now been undertaken. So this shows the location of the site. As you're aware, the school buildings are highlighted in yellow. You have Buckinghamshire Road, which comes around here, and then the links up here. And again, an aerial shot of the school, and it shows the existing buildings on there. The application, as I say, is for the demolition of the existing buildings. These are photographs of the existing school buildings, which date back from the 1960s and 1970s. And we've got the sort of nursery building, the primary building, and then some shots of the existing secondary school building. This is an aerial of this site that just shows the buildings prior to the commencement of construction. And this again showing the sports hall. This is the now demolished drama block. The secondary school building here, the primary and the nursery. This is a shot of how it looks now. So you can see that they have got on with sort of doing the construction work. And these are the starts of the car park area and also the secondary school building and the primary school building. And you can see the existing secondary school building just here, and then the primary and the nursery building in the distance. This is the approved layout of the site, and it is the case that the new buildings are being constructed on the playing fields, and then what will happen once they're finished, the children will be decanted from the school, from the old buildings into the new buildings, and then it will look to demolish the existing school buildings, and the remaining pitches will be constructed, and the school will be able to get on with its new lease of life. In terms of representation, that was just a visualisation, just to remind members as to how, it's envisaged that this will look at the end of the day as well. And the demolition of the buildings is obviously needed in order to achieve this. In terms of consultations and representations, there have been no objections from statutory and internal consultees, subject to conditions where appropriate. There's been one representation, and the person has said that they're all for improving development, but he just had a concern relating to staff car parking during the construction phase, and this was the workers. And he queried if a park and ride could be provided, but only as stated in the report, this has been addressed in paragraph 167. In terms of people to speak today, we have the agent for the application is here, and we'll be just saying a few words in support of the application. In summary, the proposed demolition, as you could see from the photographs, will assist in the delivery of a modern, efficient primary and secondary school within Belmont on a site currently in use for education. Furthermore, it would provide a significant benefit to the local community. It would be sustainable, well designed, and in keeping with and complementary to its surroundings. Consideration has been given to the main planning issues associated with the proposed demolition, and that's included the principle of the development and residential amenity. The proposal has been assessed against relevant development plan policies and material considerations, and subject to conditions where appropriate, officers consider that the impacts would be acceptable. The proposed development has generated very limited public interest with one representation, as I stated before. The proposal is considered to broadly accord with the relevant policies of the County Durham Plan and the relevant sections of the NPPF. I therefore recommend that this application be approved, subject to the conditions set out in the officer report.
Thank you, Claire. Now we've got one local member come along to speak for twos this morning. So Mamie Simmons, can you speak now, please? Well, it's written there. Right, it's written down on the wrong place for myself. So we don't have a local member to speak. So it's over to Jen Pattison for the applicant, please. I thought that must be you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Sorry, you'll have 5 minutes and Kirsty will give you a shout when you've got 1 minute left.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'll keep this very brief. I'm Jen Pattison, Associate Director at DPP, and speaking on behalf of the applicant, which is Durham County Council and Keir Construction. As Claire has explained, approval of this application would enable the delivery of the full master plan for the site, with the demolition of the existing buildings, freeing up the space required to deliver the playing fields. The demolition of the existing school buildings will facilitate the enhancement of the education and community facilities within the area, and this application will allow the final stages of the scheme to be implemented. We respectfully ask members of the Planning Committee to approve the planning application, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Jen. Does any member have... Oh, Claire, do you want to come back first, please? Have you anything to come back on?
No.
Thank you. So it's over to members. Do you have any questions for Jen and the crew? No? Well, it's straight into the debate then, please. Craig, and then Jim.
Yeah, it's much needed work to build a new crumbling school. It's a no-brainer to me. I'd accept the officer's recommendations and we approve this application, Chair.
Is that a recommendation? Mover?
I thought so.
Right.
Yes, Chair, just the same for me. I'm happy to second it.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to contribute? No. Well, it's straight over to the vote then. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That was a quick one. Sorry, we're over straight to the third application, New College, Durham. Application for a playing field. And Claire's going to present this one again. Thank you.
So this is a planning application for the construction of an all-new weather playing pitch and associated lighting and the repositioning of an existing car park. This is a plan showing the site. The site's located within the New College Durham campus to the west of Frammelgate Moor, with Snipeley Park and Ride being in this area here. The site is bounded by the west by the 167 and by housing to the east, the south, and along the south here. Here we have Council Court. This is just a correction to the committee report. It's private accommodation for over 60s and not as a care home as referred to in paragraph 2. So we have Council Court here. We also have St Cuthbert's Avenue along here, the property of Stone Lee in this corner here, and we also have Westcott Drive in the area below the B6532, which has the entrance into the college. This is the main entrance into the college, the vehicular access with a pedestrian access around here. You can see by this aerial the location of the current car park and this area here, which is currently grass pitch. There are no landscape, ecological or designated heritage assets within the site or within the immediate vicinity. A public right-of-way, footpath number 1, Frammelgate Moor, runs north-south through the site. That would not be affected, as it currently isn't, through the proposed development. There's an aerial photograph of the site. Again, this shows perhaps a little bit clearer the green pitch and also the existing car park. I have a few photographs. Again, we did visit the site yesterday. This shows a view of the existing car park. This shows a view of the grass pitch, looking across Campsall Court here, and then we have the properties of St Cuthbert's Avenue along here. The access, there's currently a hedgerow along here. The hedgerow would remain, but there would be a sort of a gap cut out in order to allow access to the proposed car parking area. In terms of, we also have a photograph here, of the existing access to the college, and here are existing photographs of existing planting to the south along the 6532 opposite Westcott Drive, and also some planting that's in place adjacent to Blackmore House Mains Court. The purposes of this is to show that there is already some planting on site that would be retained, and it would also be enhanced in terms of planting around the proposed car parking area. So this shows the proposed site layout. So you would have where the car park was, the artificial grass pitch. The new car park would be the first thing that would be constructed. That would be taking place take place for approximately 26 weeks. So they would start and build this here. They would also undertake planting around the site, as you can see around here. Approximately 11 trees would be lost as part of the whole development, but in mitigation, approximately 124 trees are proposed to be planted. Once the car park has been constructed, they would then construct the artificial grass pitch, and this would take a further 14 weeks to construct. So in total, the whole development would take approximately 40 weeks to do so. In terms of just the proximity to the residential dwellings, as you'll see, the application boundary does go along the boundaries, sort of like a fence line around here. But what you'll also see on here is that the actual development itself is actually sort of steps back from the boundaries. So it's not actually directly on that. So you can see here there would be a buffer around here along with some planting. And again here, it's the artificial grass pitch is no closer, well, slightly closer, but to the B6, the B road, that just runs along this site here. What it's important to highlight is the fact that the car park is not going to be open for the duration of time that the artificial grass pitch is. The car park itself would be closed from 8 o'clock on an evening, and the floodlights, well, the lights that would be used to light it up would be closed by 8:30 in the evening. So again, that would sort of minimise any perceived disruption to the properties in this area. The hours of use of the pitch, it's been identified that there is a need for such a pitch, and this is detailed in the report, and this would be designed to Sport England and FA standards, and the quality of the provision would be secured through condition, as would the hours of operation for this. And I must add as well, the hours of use of the car park would also be secured through condition. In terms of consultations and representations, there have been no objections from statutory and internal consultees, subject to conditions where appropriate. We have received 33 letters of objection, and these have been received from local residents in close proximity to the site. The matters raised by residents, I've detailed these on the slide, but obviously they are in detail in the report for members. These include comments about the potential loss of rural views due to increased car parking, elevated noise levels, surpassing existing college-associated noise levels, impact of excessive lighting on residential areas, traffic congestion and road safety risks. We've also had an objection from the Durham County Green Party, and they've raised issues about excessive parking, insufficient travel plan details, environmental harm, lacking transparency in consultations. We've also had a representation, an objection from the City of Durham Trust. Again, they've raised issues about excessive car parking, visual impacts, sustainable transport, and concerns about insufficient prioritisation of pedestrian and cycling movements and lack of justification. We do have 3 speakers today. We have Alan Simpson, who's a local resident, and we also have the City of Durham Trust, who are going to speak in objection to the application. We also have Paul Bradley, the Chief Financial Officer of New College, and will speak in support of the application. What I would say, just in terms of issues that's been raised about excessive car parking, the existing car park has 300 spaces. The new proposed car park has 313 spaces, so there would be an increase of 13. These spaces would include 20 electric vehicle charging points, as well as 8 accessible bays. In terms of and also again, just to highlight, the access that is already used, there would be no change to that vehicular access. There would be no change to the existing pedestrian access to the site either. In terms of summary, the proposed development would provide a modern play pitch to be used by the existing students of New College and by the wider community. The loss of the existing play pitch on the field to the east of the campus would be replaced by the formalised provision, resulting in a significant enhancement to the sporting offer in Framwell Gatemoor in the wider county. As you'll have seen from the conditions, there is a condition that would require a community use agreement through condition, and that would be something that, we would need to approve. The proposal has been assessed against relevant development plan policies and material considerations, and subject to conditions where appropriate, the impacts are considered by officers to be acceptable. The proposed development has generated a notable degree of public objection, and the contents of these objections relating to material matters and other matters have been considered as part of the decision-making process. While the representations received have been noted, particularly in relation to the impact on residential amenity, officers don't consider that the impacts would outweigh the benefits associated with this proposed development. It's therefore considered that the development is broadly accords with the relevant policies of the County Durham Plan and relevant sections of the NPPF. I therefore recommend that the application be approved, subject to the conditions set out in the report. And as I said before, these include conditions to restrict the hours of operation of the artificial grass pitch and lighting, as well as the use of the proposed car park. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. As Claire mentioned, we've got 3 speakers to come, but finally, it's over to you, Mamie, as local member. Mamie Simmons, please.
Right, I am Councillor Mamie Simmons. Fellow councillors, I'm here as one of 3 county councillors. Councillor Wilkes and Hopgood are unable to attend but support this representation. We are speaking on behalf of residents who have raised concerns with us about this proposed development. We are firm supporters of New College and want to ensure that the college and the community have excellent facilities for the students and the local residents to use. Over many months, we have managed to get a number of mitigation measures implemented as part of this application, having met with the college planners and with the local residents. However, residents feel strongly that some concerns have not or cannot be addressed. The applicant has confirmed to us that electric vehicle parking points will not be installed nearest to the edge of the development, where it breaks into housing and in particular to the residents of Camsell Court, which will help to reduce noise and pollution. In addition, the college has confirmed to us that lighting for the car park extension will normally be turned off in the early evening, and that the parking area will not be used in the evening, as there will be sufficient parking available after the college closes for evening visitors. An additional landscape has also been confirmed, which is welcome. However, there remains significant concerns which I will now outline. The field, which is proposed to be turned into parking, has been used by the community for decades as open space for walking and recreation, including by the dog walkers. The open space further along by Alexander Close, which was previously used until a few years ago, has almost entirely been fenced off by the college, which has already reduced this open space. Whilst these areas may not be formal recreation areas, they have been used for decades, uninterrupted by the public, and this loss of open space is not considered acceptable, with the last remaining area being proposed to be removed as part of open green space. The second concern raised with us concerns the visual impact of this development for residents living in these properties adjacent to the site, including Westcott Drive, Council Court, the terraces, and St. Cuthbert's Avenue. In the case of Westcott Drive, there have been concerns raised about the lighting from the football pitch floodlights. Of greater concern, due to its proximity to the housing, is the lighting from the new car park. This will shine into properties in Camsell Court and will interfere with the amenity of residents on the terraces and St. Cuthbert's Avenue. In addition, residents who look onto the open field and hedgerows are going to lose this amenity, it being replaced by a car park with floodlights. For some residents, the view from their apartments on the first and second floors of Camsell Court will be ruined. This area has been prone to flooding in the past, with properties on St. Cuthbert's Avenue having suffered. There are concerns that the concreting over of such a large area of grass, even with the proposed mitigation, will increase risks significantly, especially given that we are seeing more extreme weather conditions. Whilst the area is not in the green belt, it is a green space when lost cannot be recovered and will be lost to residents. I would therefore ask that members of the committee take the account residents' concerns when making their decisions, and specifically consider whether the application should be refused on the grounds of loss of public open space used for decades and loss of residential amenity, and as per the relevant parts of the NPPF and the county plan. I ask committee, in remaking this decision, you could consider Policy 26, which requires the council to maintain and protect land where appropriate and the county's green infrastructure. Policy 39 also considers, which requires development doesn't cause unaccessible harm to the character, quality or distinctiveness of the landscape, and also the committee to consider the relevant parts of the NPPF regarding sustainable development and ensuring that there isn't adverse impact on residential amenity. Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Mamie. Now we've got two objectors to speak next. You'll have 3 minutes each, Alan Smith and Matthew Phillips. I don't know who's going first.
My name's Alan Smith. Could I go first, if that's possible?
Certainly, yes. And Kirsty will let you know when you've got 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, thank you. Right. Yes, I'm Alan Smith. I'm one of the owner-occupiers of Stoneleigh, Durham Moor, which was shown on the plan before. Our rear garden has a boundary of about 120 feet with the playing fields, where it's proposed to construct the new car park. We wish to object in the strongest possible terms to the proposed development on behalf of ourselves and the local residents, who will be adversely affected by the lighting on the pitch, the noise levels, the increased amount of traffic using the main access. There are some mature trees on the vicinity of the main entrance which need to be kept. The development is not a minor amendment to the present car park, but a major development virtually destroying the existing green open space. The current car park is well landscaped. It's a waste of a scarce resource to move it to a completely different location where it's perfectly serviceable at the moment, and it enhances the look of the college. The development will be a major environmental catastrophe. A green field, which is now used for sporting activities by local people free of charge, will no longer be available for their use and will very largely become a surfaced area, having an adverse impact on wildlife of the area and a likely adverse effect on the drainage of the field and the surrounding areas, causing possible flooding to the gardens of the adjoining properties. The local people wanting to use the all-weather pitch will have to pay to do so. Several years ago, during the construction of what is now the existing college, there was a temporary car park on the field, and that caused flooding in our back garden and in some of the gardens of St Cuthbert's Avenue. Whenever the all-weather pitch is hired out, there will be further noise and air pollution, which will be all year round, not just when the college is open. There need to be lockable gates on the access to the car park after the all-weather pitch is closed down to prevent it being used, for instance, by joyriders. The plan with the planning application does not show a security fence around the exterior of the site, which we were given to believe by New College there would be. Previously, when there was a temporary car park on now what is one of the now the playing field, one of the houses in St Cuthbert Avenue was actually broken into, so there needs to be a security fence round the field, which will be the car park.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay. Also, when the new college was constructed, there was a landscaping condition which was not complied with. We need to be sure that any landscaping condition this time will be complied with. On the other side of the field, the other side of the college, near the bypass, there are fields which could be used for an all-weather pitch. Surely it'd be cheaper to buy that land and allow it to be used. And also, the new car park needs to have a condition restricting its use to car parking only. It would seem that the main motive is to raise revenue for New College, and that this overrides the adverse consequences of the all-weather pitch and the new car park being so close to the existing residential property. It is disingenuous to say that the development is for the benefit of the local community.
Time's up, Alan, I'm sorry.
New development would be a blot on the landscape. The application should be refused. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry I ran over slightly.
Thank you. It's over to Matthew Phillips from the Durham City Trust now. You'll have the same 3 minutes.
Thank you. The Trust has no issue with improving the sports teaching facilities, but we think the new car park should be smaller. Policy 21 states that car parking at destinations should be limited to encourage the use of sustainable modes of transport. The transport statement described in the officer's report as...
Sorry, Matthew. Alan, could you turn off your microphone, please? Carry on now.
The transport statement described in the officer's report as full and robust contains no actual survey data from the site. Data from other sites is used to show that community use of the new pitches will not cause congestion. No internal consultee has given a view on the size of the car park. 5 years ago, New College applied for a building extension. Their application showed spare parking capacity of around a quarter to a third of spaces. The council approved the building of the extension on 2% of the spaces. An application in 2021 counted 222 surplus parking spaces. The council approved removing 47 to extend the sports hall. There is no information in this application to justify why, when such a large surplus was identified just 2 years ago, it is now necessary to slightly increase the number of spaces. The council has recently refused to accept a travel plan from the hospital, suggesting that reducing car parking was needed to help achieve the goals. The same should apply here. The transport statement disagrees with the planning statement about whether the proposals will lead to more students. It includes the worst map of local cycle paths I have ever seen, with dozens of errors, including a cycle path in the middle of a field by Carhouse Pit. The council has declared a climate emergency. A third of our emissions are from transport. The climate emergency response plan envisages far fewer car trips. In this context, with a transport statement, which is a pretty poor piece of work, the officer states that the retention of a broadly similar car parking provision is considered to be an appropriate response in this instance. It is open to the committee to consider otherwise. The numerical evidence provided previously to the planning authority suggests cutting 100 spaces at least would be appropriate. The applicant may wish to advance further evidence as to the current car park usage. If so, the Trust asks the committee to defer determination of this application until this evidence has been made available for further public response. People may say that cutting car parking at the college will just lead to parking in local streets. The proper response to this is not to enlarge the car park, but to create residence parking zones. If the committee approves an excessively large car park, the council has no powers to undo that mistake. Planning must consider the long term, and in the current climate emergency, every decision must help to combat greenhouse gas emissions.
Thank you, Matthew. There are only going to be 13 additional car park spaces, but it's over to one of the supporters, Paul Bradley. Please, you'll have 6 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I'm Paul Bradley, Chief Finance Officer for New College Durham. The proposal set out before the committee today is critical for the development of New College Durham's curriculum delivery, but it also seeks to enhance the college's engagement with the local community, giving them use of these facilities, offering a community resource for key participation and physical activity, which will be extended to the use of the college's sports centre, which is also due to be refurbished. Members will appreciate that many schools, sixth form centres and indeed colleges in the county offer both sports provision and facilities to the standard that we are proposing. The college has a strong reputation for outstanding teaching, a diverse curriculum offer and positive progression routes. However, it is now starting to show signs of decline in its recruitment of students in sport, as the facilities at the college that we are providing are not at a standard that many students have experienced during their educational journey in schools. As the sports facilities on site are not up to the standard we are expecting, we are seeing a trend of students choosing other colleges or institutions instead of New College Durham. Now, the college hosts a football development centre in partnership with Newcastle United Foundation and Spennymoor Football Club. It's worth noting that the current pitch is private land, not public open space. With the unpredictable British weather, the college currently transports its students to either Concert or Spennymoor and hire of their facilities at some considerable cost, both financially and environmentally. The provision of an artificial grass pitch would remove this requirement and would enhance our curriculum timetabling options all year round by providing more options for teaching during the winter period. This at present is limited to our sports hall, which already has a very high demand from other sporting and curriculum activities, which includes exams. The college has seen an increase in its overall student population this year of almost 10%. And as the college continues to grow, it is hoped that the artificial grass pitch will attract a number of new students, not only who study sport, but across the rest of the college curriculum. Timetables are being developed so that the Football Development Centre that I previously mentioned can be accessed by as many college students studying many different courses as possible. The proposed artificial grass pitch will enhance the college's community engagement offer by providing additional opportunities for community use. There is a lack of all-weather pitches for local football teams at both junior and senior level in the vicinity of the site, and indeed the college has already been contacted by a number of local clubs that would like to use the facility if it is approved. The artificial grass pitch will enable clubs and businesses to use the pitch daily, widening the reach of the college and the local community, offering key participation and physical activity opportunities. With any such development, we recognise there are community concerns, and we have sought to engage with all key parties and individuals in considering and responding to these concerns. Through an extended consultation process which commenced in June last year and included a public meeting held at Camsell Court, we've sought to engage with the community and respond where we can to their concerns. Indeed, the college and the design team have refined the proposals to address these, which has included the location of the pitch, the electrical vehicle bays, a considerate approach to the timing of the car park lighting, the lighting types that are used, the drainage strategy to address any potential flooding concerns, the number of spaces, as raised by the planning officer, it does increase by 13, but 20 of these are EV charging bays. These adjustments are detailed in the robust reports and detailed plans submitted as part of the application, that the development is acceptable in relation to lighting, noise and traffic impact, and these have been accepted by officers and statutory consultees. Additionally, the landscape proposals will ensure biodiversity net gain and result in a 17.25% net gain for area-based habitats and a net gain of 106.82% for hedgerows, plus the environmental savings from not having to transport our students off-site to either Concert or Spennymoor locations. We respectfully request members of the Planning Committee to vote in favour of the officer's recommendation to approve our planning application. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Do you want to come back on anything, Claire?
Yeah, just a couple of points. I know Mr. Bradley sort of highlighted the point about the issue about the ownership of the land, the status of it. I would direct members to paragraph 63. The proposals are located on a site which is in an established educational use and is not allocated land. It is part of the college and it's used for their purposes. In terms of loss of views, that was cited as a concern, an objection rather. Again, that's something that we've considered in the report, and it is a balance between the need for the new artificial grass pitch, which we've sort of considered through the report as well. In terms of the views, we have sort of considered in terms of conditions, and as part of that, the car park wouldn't be in use after a certain period of time, after 8 o'clock at night. And in terms of sort of securing that, that would be something that would be required through planning condition. If it was used, then, the council's open to take enforcement action against that. There would be, and again, the agent can confirm this, but a barrier to prevent the use of that car park. Therefore, the issue of sort of somebody getting in there and driving around, it would prove difficult for them to do so. In terms of the parking numbers, again, that's something that is being clarified. There's currently 300 spaces. It would increase by 13. And again, that would include the 20 EV charging points and the 8 accessible bays. In terms of the location of the electric vehicle parking bays, they were shown on the layout plan, and that's to the northern part of the site, and that has been made available as part of the planning application. In terms of drainage, I expect, you know, you've got a concern regarding that. That has been considered by the council's drainage officers, and a condition would require details of the scheme to be submitted. And thereafter, should there be an issue, again, you know, the council has the ability to take enforcement action, as it does on any development in the county where planning permission is granted subject to conditions. And again, there's also going to be additional landscaping that would take place. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Does any member of the committee, oh, there's hands going up all over, have questions for today's speaker? Maura, I think you were first, and then Alan Bell, and then Patricia.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask questions now and then give my representation later. Could I have a little bit more information on the specifics of the drainage plan? It's just I'm struggling to focus on my screen. I've got a bit of an eye issue. And also when it comes to public amenity, I understand it's currently private land, but if people are indeed using it and it would be a loss of their amenity because they'd have to pay for the new facilities, what sort of help and assistance could you give to people in the local community to be able to use it as a community facility financially?
Is that question aimed at Paul Bradley? Could you respond, please, Paul?
Yeah, in terms of the pitch itself would be available to all the community to use. We in terms of cost, we're looking to recover our costs. We're not looking to make money out of this, or in terms of what we charge the community for usage of it, it would be calculated on a basis of cost recovery only.
And the drainage, please, Paul.
Yeah, the detailed drainage strategy will be submitted as part of the planning conditions that we've been given. It has been looked at by our experts and it has been looked at by the council's drainage officers, and they feel it is compliant.
Thank you for that, Paul. I think I've got Alan Bell next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Paul, well, just one quick question. I may have missed it in the write-up. Is the fencing a screen to prevent the ball going onto the main road coming past? I have missed it, have I?
Yes, with any artificial grass pitch, the 3-metre high mesh fences to stop the ball from exiting the pitch.
Thank you. Patricia, I think, did you have your hand up?
I did. Can I ask what would be the effect, as has been muted, if you lost 100 car parking spaces? Because on the site visit yesterday, the car park was pretty busy, and I would think to suggest that the college of that size should lose car parking, you know, would cause difficulties outside that area. So could you sort of elaborate on that?
Thank you. Yes, I mean, the members visited the site during lunchtime as well, I would point out, so there were a number of students off-site, and that car park was exceedingly busy. During the months prior to Christmas, we have seen the students kind of filling the car park right up. So if we removed spaces, the likelihood is that they will spill out into the residential streets.
Thank you for that question in response. I think I've got Jonathan, you next, please. Is your question for Paul or for the... Oh, well, he's happy to wait. Okay, that's better, probably. Jim, question for...
Yes, Chair, just for a little bit of a clarification, I'm a bit curious. Could we ask Councillor Simmons, I could have sworn that she came here with a proposal that the three of the councillors, Councillor Wilkinson, Hopgood, were in favour of this, but then spoke heavily on the residents' objections against. Can I just clarify that those three members are here to speak on behalf of the application.
Did you get that question, Mamie? Did you get that question? It was aimed at you. Are you in favour of this application or in favour of... Well, you're representing the 3 members, yes. Yes, please. Can you put your mic on? Can you put your mic on, please? Then everyone can hear.
Right, sorry. We're trying to balance our concerns for the residents because we feel that they are having a very difficult time over what is being envisaged. We also want to see the college make the progress that they want to, but we also feel that further consideration should be given to where exactly the site is. Can you not put it somewhere else on there without taking away the amenities of the local residents?
Thank you.
We don't oppose you having a football.
Thank you, Mamie. Mamie, thank you. I think you've explained that. I think you've explained that as well as you could do, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to ask a question? Not at this stage. Well, we'll go into the debate then. Who would like to start off? Maura, it's over to you, then Alan, then Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite torn and on the fence about this application, if I'm honest. I think that it would be a great benefit to have another playing pitch like this in the county, and particularly in that part of the world. But I do have concerns about the lack of detail on exactly how the drainage is going to work, because we've got residents here saying that when there was anything built previously on that piece of land, there was flooding on their properties. So I think that there's a huge question there that I don't think has been effectively answered today. But I just wanted to come back on some of the issues around parking. I think this is the first time I've sat on a planning committee and people have told me there's too much parking. And I'm just going to have to push back on some of the points that were made around that, because quite a few of the children from my area go to New College, and so often they get the bus. They want to get the bus directly to New College, and they can't actually get on the bus. The buses don't stop because at the times when the students are getting on from other parts of the county, by the time it gets to my young people just on the other side of the city, the buses are too full to take them on and they end up late, or they end up having to make their parents late for work because they need a last minute lift in just because the buses don't stop. And it's all fine and good for people to say that we need to be using public transport more, and I completely agree. I do not drive myself, and I rely on our public transport system, but often people who make these points drive and then they don't understand just how horrible the bus system is, just how unreliable. I mean, there was so many young people who were affected by the strike last year, and there were so many people who were affected by the day-to-day unreliability of us just not having enough bus drivers. Also, if you're going to be building a brand new pitch, then by definition, you're going to be playing home games. Whichever team is studying at the facility is going to be inviting other teams, students, their parents, coaches to play on this facility. And in addition to all of the young people who are parking there for their education, you're going to have this influx as well. And I would be really worried about having a facility like the playing pitch without adequate parking. And given that it's going to be putting in more electric vehicle charging points and also the disabled accessible bays, I think that, you know, it's important to be encouraging more EVs and the charging points. And if that means that more young people can use hybrid cars or electric cars when they come in, or more staff can, and it's just a bit easier for people to do it, then I think that's important for a culture change, because it's not possible for every young person to get into New College on our Creaky bus service. So I do still have the concern about the drainage, and on the issue of local people using the space, if people are using that space now for amenity and it's private land, then there was always the risk that it could be shut off anyway because it's private land. But this is an opportunity for the college to reach out to people in that part of the world. And if you're talking about access to the amenities that already exist and that you're revamping, it would be interesting to give some maybe concrete ideas now to local people about what access to that's going to look like. I know it's not a material planning consideration, but just in terms of the relationship between the community and the facility, I think it would be useful to know, are you going to charge people for using, say, the sports hall with the gym equipment and the health centre? If so, how much? Is there going to be some help for that? And also about the nearby schools, because I went to St Godric's Primary School, which isn't that far away, and we used the facilities at Fram School for many years. So it would be nice to hear about whether or not schools like St Godric's and Bluecoat and the local primary schools will be able to use this facility as well.
Thank you, Maura. Alan Bell next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I actually think it's a brilliant scheme. I think New College Durham have been there since the year dot, and to refuse such an application would put them at such a disadvantage. As the gentleman said there, not to have such a facility these days, they can't attract the students or the teams or the sports. I don't know if it's multi-use pitch, what have you. But this day and age, particularly with the climate and the rain, the amount of football which is can't be played through winter months is is very high. So people think out of the box now, and these pitches are more and more common. And if the college didn't have such a support, they would lose students, and at the end of the day, there's jobs on the line if they're not getting the students through there. I think it's been very sympathetic and well thought out in relation to the switching of the car park over to near the residential area and putting the pitch on the other side which will sort of take the noise away from the properties. And therefore, I've got no hesitation in recommending the approval of the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Is that you moving it, Alan? Thank you. Well, I think I'll bring John Higgins in next, and you after that, Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. I undertook the site visit yesterday, and I've got to say that I have a all-weather pitch in my community, so I do know what that attracts, and attracts a lot of people that wouldn't be able to do sport if we didn't have that facility. I think the college have thought this out well by moving it from what is not a public open space but is a college field. And we all know that throughout the county we have a lot of people going to school fields doing X, Y and Z. The car park, in my opinion, has been well designed. We've got disabled bays, we've got electric charging points. It's been brought back basically from the edge of one of the street of the houses, which is onto the east of the car park. And what did impress me was that the time limit for the car park will be closed at 8 o'clock, and the lights basically will be switched off at 8:30. And the security, we're going to have a barrier there. I think it's going to be a big asset for the college, and also going to be a big asset for the local communities. I'm quite happy to set the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, John. Jonathan Elmer.
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan Elmer, Brandon Division. I've got a few points to make on this. I'll try and do it as briefly as possible. But I just want to, first of all, drill into Policy 21, because the Policy 21 is referenced as one of the relevant policies in the officer's report. But it selectively extracts texts for presentation in that report. The part of Policy 21, which is called Delivering Sustainable Transport, Part E states, car parking at destinations should be limited to encourage the use of sustainable modes of transport, having regard to the accessibility of the development by walking, cycling and public transport. Now, there's a small expansion of this car park. So I'm trying to make the point here that Policy 21 is all about the council trying to support applications that encourage people to stop using their cars so much and make more use of cycling, walking and bustling. So I appreciate what Maura had to say in relation to the poor quality bus service, but that doesn't excuse the failure to provide any sufficient linkage for people that walking and cycling in association with this application. They're also methods for encouraging greater use of sustainable transport. And of course, the most important method is for organisations to have a sustainable travel plan. Now, the college does have a sustainable travel plan that talks about these sorts of things. They need to encourage greater walking and cycling. And here's an attempt to enable that, to enable students to walk to a greater extent, to cycle to a greater extent, by providing the infrastructure on the site. But that's not something that's happening here. What we have instead is an application that unfortunately promotes single occupancy car-centric behaviour. You might want to justify the need for that, but Policy 21 is pushing against that. So we can't argue that this application is in compliance with Policy 21, which is called Delivering Sustainable Transport. We've got a net expansion of the car park, and it's creating a situation where it's more comfortable to use a privately owned motor vehicle, and people are less likely to use public transport, walking and cycling. That's just the nature of this application. More points to make. I can see Moira's desperate to jump in here, but I'm going to keep going for a few moments, Moira. Now, sorry, I've just lost my focus slightly. There's another couple of unrelated points I wanted to make in relation to this. One is, of course, reflecting the concerns over the loss of open green space and the replacement, basically, with plastic and concrete. So you've got a large grassed area which will be lost, that will be covered with concrete, and the existing car park will be covered with plastic. Now, that brings me on to my concern in relation to what happens to all of that plastic. And I just haven't found anything in the application that satisfactorily describes what's going to happen to all the plastic. When you put down an artificial pitch like this, you're using a tremendous amount of plastic. Now, there needs to be conditions in place, in my view, to make sure that that plastic is recycled at the end of its use, and that the microplastics that are generated through all the football played on the pitch, where are they going to go? There's simply no information made available to us in terms of the treatment of microplastics. I know where they'll go. They'll end up in the SUDS attenuation pond. Now, you can screen, it is possible to put in mechanisms to solve those problems, but they're just not mentioned in the application. So I'd really like to see, if this does go forwards, for condition 11 on the SUDS drainage to be expanded if possible, so that there's a requirement to screen microplastics. And I'd really like to see condition 9 extended, so that we can provide for the future recycling of all of the plastic that's going to be used in this situation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jonathan. Now it's over to Craig next. I'm going to give you a few minutes to chill out, Maura.
Thank you, Chair. Anyway, yeah, there's been a lot of impacts that have been listed by members across the committee, and I welcome the fact that Councillor Simmons, Councillor Elmer have actually brought planning rationale to the debate and referenced the county plan, etc., because we quite often have these debates and they don't do this. But we always, as always, need to remember that there are always negatives that come with all planning applications, and they need to be balanced against the benefits that the application brings to the community and the mitigations that are put in place to prevent those impacts having large and significant concerns to the environment, to the community. So, we also have to put in good faith that the planning officers are going to do their job properly, and they're going to enforce these rules and regulations and do it properly. So, for example, the lights. I feel the concern of the residents, but the lighting is so much more directional these days, and there are going to be planning rules and regulations put in place for that. The loss of the view, the loss of the kind of grassland. This is not public land. It is owned by the college, and I've had a similar issue in my own patch, where grassland that the public were using, and it's been closed off, but there's not a lot we can do. We have to accept that this land belongs to someone. It's by their good grace that they've let us use it. And I think someone used the word rural views, I think, in the discussion or something like that. Did someone not? I thought I heard the planning officer reference it. But anyway, my point is that I don't consider this to be rural. It's a college facility, and I wouldn't consider anybody looking at New College Durham and considering that to be any kind of rural aspect to it. And so to me, there is not, the harm is low, and there are mitigations in terms of increasing biodiversity for the planting and everything like that, and for the screening. I'll move on to the car parking, which has been a big topic of debate. I share Councillor Elmer and other members' views that I don't want people to use cars. I want them to be using the bus routes. It's debatable how good the bus routes are, but it's on the 21 route, which is one of the best bus routes in County Durham. But from my experience, inhibiting parking does not push car users into not using cars. It just forces them onto residential streets. You say enforce it, but it never works out that way. The law around enforcing car parking is just not strong enough to really protect residents from parking and stuff like that. And you say, and being involved in education in schools for a number of years now is, yes, they can have these very nice kind of policies in terms of getting people onto bikes, getting into public transport, but they are just policies, and you can't force students and parents to do this. It just ends up, and when I use the word force, you cannot drag these people onto the buses, you cannot drag them onto bikes, they still use the cars, and all that happens is residents are harmed by this. So if you've not worked it out already, I am for this application. We're seeing more and more of these 3G pitches pop up, and we're seeing more of them pop up because it allows people to exercise all year round. It is miserable running around a horrifically muddy pitch in the height of winter. You really not encouraged to exercise, and it's quite difficult to run around without falling over. We need more of these 3G pitches. The economic benefits of making sure the college is better and able to provide more for their students, more skills, education, etc., to improve the economy, etc., etc. The grassland that it is replacing with the car park, I fully appreciate, it's concrete, it's plastic, etc. But grass that is cut on a regular basis does not provide that much biodiversity. And looking at the plans, there's a heck of a lot more biodiversity going to be put in place in terms of the tree planting. Suds ponds, they're not amazing for biodiversity, but they add a bit of water life, etc., if they actually do fill up. So, to summarise, Chair, I'm in support of this application and will be voting for it.
Thank you, Craig. It's over to you next, Patricia.
Thank you, Chair. I have to agree with Craig, I'm afraid, and Moira. I get Jonathan's point, but we're not at that point, unfortunately, to say we can't provide car parking. We're not at that point, that we can allow cars to clog up our streets so that everything comes to a standstill, because that's what happens. The last one I went to see, all-weather pitch, literally would have caused chaos in the streets because the school had such a small car park. We really have got to put these pitches where they are viable for a start, and this is a very viable site. It's good entrance, there's plenty of room there. I didn't get the rural bit either when I was on the site visit yesterday. This is obviously within the school's compound, and whilst we want people to stop driving, there is an issue. We are a country with people with freedom, and people will not come away from their cars because they can't park anywhere. It just will be chaos. So, you know, we are short of pitches in this area, so I think there is a need there. The fact that the mitigation of the lighting, which very often on these pitches goes on a lot longer, the fact they're not going to disturb residents with that, with parking being very near in the evening. I think the college have probably done as much as they can do to mitigate the concerns, which are basically lighting and parking. And also, I agree with Moira on the drainage and this. It would be nice to get some information, or for the officer to put a condition to make sure that this is fully sustainable and is not going to affect nearby properties, because that wouldn't be helpful, and it's not really what we as a planning committee would want to happen. But I am in full support of this application. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Patricia. Maura, it's over to you, honey.
Thank you, Chair. If we were talking about a local secondary school or a primary school in regards to the whole active travel discussion, then I would be completely on board with the things that are being said. But New College attracts people from across County Durham, and I believe even maybe further afield. So you've got people travelling from all over. You've got people who will be travelling from very rural areas that probably don't have much of a bus link at all. And so it's really difficult to active travel to Durham from Bishop Auckland. It's really difficult to active travel to this side of Durham from Newton Aycliffe. And it's not particularly straightforward to get there from my neck of the woods either. It would take about 3 hours for a kid from Coxo to walk there, and it'd take him about 50 minutes to cycle, but then you're cycling over main roads as a young person through Durham at rush hour. It's just not a viable option for a lot of people to active travel to New College just because of the facility that it is. And by restricting the size of the car park, when you're now going to be bringing more people in to use this facility, because you're going to have other teams come in to use it and other teams play in teams who use it, you are just going to cause a pain for residents. And I've seen that in my own ward, and I can tell you that is what is going to happen. A lot of us have seen it as well. It would be absolutely great if everyone used the bus service, because then maybe there'd be enough revenue for a proper nice bus service that turns up. But that's not the world that we're living in at the moment, and we can't make planning decisions on the basis of the world we want to live in just on its own. And it would be really detrimental to the young people in my area who can't get to New College because the buses are too full if they don't also have the opportunity to park there. The other thing I want to say is I take Councillor Elmer's point around the microplastics, and given that we still seem to be in discussions over the drainage, but maybe I've missed something in the report, very likely. It would be good if we could add in conditions around the filtering of microplastics, and it would be good also if we could get some idea of the recycling around the plastic pitch. I don't think they're bad in and of themselves if the right mitigation's in there.
Thank you, Maura. You sometimes talk a lot of sense. Jim, you're next.
Chair, I just wanted to say that I agree wholeheartedly with what Councillor Bell said. I had a few things to say, and Councillor Martin, and pretty much, very much along the same lines. I had a few other things to say as well, but I think I've made my mind up. I know what I'm going to do next. Thank you.
At this stage.
No, if you want to clarify.
Stephen or Claire, going to try and clarify about microplastics before we go on.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we've had quite a few of these types of applications through the planning system and through planning committees in recent years, and I think it's probably the first time this year of microplastics has arisen, Chair. Just reading through the report and having a chat with Claire there, I think all our consultees have, thoroughly looked at the application, whether it's be our drainage guys or the ecology issues, and they haven't identified a microplastic issue. However, notwithstanding that, I think as the report says, Chair, I think we've got the principle of a drainage scheme agreed with our drainage manager, but the details have still got to be submitted and agreed. So I think what we can do is when you come to sit down to agree that scheme, I'd like to have a discussion with our drainage engineer to make sure that whatever scheme we are agreeing here does accurately filter and contain the microplastics. So hopefully that gives confidence, Chair, to Councillor McEwen and Elmer that is something officers will take away from today if the application is approved, and make sure that we do get that covered off, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. Do you still want to come back, Jonathan? Okie doke.
Yes, Chair, I won't be long. I mean, I totally accept that it's a marginal increase in the size of the car park. And that's not so much the point I'm trying to make, to be fair. It's the fact that a previous application came in where New College wanted to put a building in that would take up some of their car parking space. And at that point, they argued that there was massive over-provision of car parking. And of course, at the time, they were using that argument to justify their position of losing car parking. So this is just there's a little bit of inconsistency here. If there's massive over-provision, then why do we need to marginally expand the car park? But again, I'm not so bothered about the marginal expansion of the car park. My concern relates to the fact that there is very little being done here to incentivise alternative transport uses. So walking and cycling. And that really is the point of Policy 21. Thank you, Chair.
As has been pointed out, these students aren't all living locally. Many of them live a fair distance away and they can't walk and or cycle. Maura, it's over to you, love.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what Councillor Elmer thinks isn't being done beyond the expansion of the car park, because, I mean, is it that there's a lack of cycle racks? Is it that the path doesn't connect to the community well enough? I'm struggling to see what New College could do to make it easier for people to get to New College by foot. If there's a suggestion that he can make, maybe people would take it on board, but there's not really a specific that I've heard. And I do think that actually, when you get something like this, when you get an all-weather pitch, because we have so few of them in the county, you do get people coming from elsewhere, and it is prudent to make sure that the people who are coming from elsewhere with kids and their kits and everything have a space to park that doesn't then impinge on all the local residents. And also doesn't take up any parking spaces in the co-op, which gets very full.
And then Jonathan.
Very happy to come back on the specifics. Thank you for the opportunity. I think the most important specific is increased penetration through the site so that cyclists can easily enter and exit the site and go through the site on their bikes. I really think it's important to beef up the workplace travel plan. That I guess it was called a school travel plan. I know what the exact title of it is. But these documents are really important because they're the measures that set out the incentives, the things the college will do to incentivise active travel. And that includes not just all of the students going to it, but the staff as well. And so often, you know, for example, you can transfer allowances. People tend to get paid mileage allowances. You can transfer those allowances so that they get cycling allowances instead. So there's all sorts of actual measures that come out of sustainable travel plans, and the college has a sustainable travel plan. So let's see some investment in improving that sustainable travel plan. The penetration and connectivity within the site, things like cycle racks, showering facilities for cyclists, so that they can actually get a shower after they've arrived at college. All of these things make it more likely.
Jonathan, I think we're well away from the planning application, and I don't
well, you
think
asked me specifics in relation.
I don't think these specifics are relevant to this planning application.
They comply with Policy 21 entirely.
Well, but you've already discussed all of that. I think you've already gone far enough. Is anybody else would like to
give
contribute?
specifics, Chair. There they are.
Well, thank you, but I don't think we need any more of it. Is it anybody else like to contribute to today's meeting? Well, it's over to the vote then. I've got a mover and a second, Alan Bell and John Higgins. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Well, after all of that, that's unanimous. Thank you. And that concludes today's business. If you'll just wait a minute till we switch off the